This is my bento box. Wow. Wow. So technically this wasn't the first bento box that I ever had. This was a gift from one of my coworkers from Japan. She gave it to me as a Christmas gift after, I would say, several weeks of rumors going around, true rumors going around the school. Estrella Sensei makes her own bento. Whoa, sugoi ne. They were super impressed, like, wow, our foreign English teacher is making her own meal and they're like pretty. And so the rumor came around and then she gave me this. People applauded me a lot about making my own bento. They were saying like, oh, like, making your bento is really healthy, isn't it? Like, oh, you must be saving a lot of money. While they weren't wrong, they never knew the real reason. The real reason I was making my own bento is because my skin was so bad, and at that point I got this idea in my head that if I control the food that I eat, somehow that will make my skin better. Yes, I developed a mild food anxiety thanks to my terrible skin. It never got to the point of, I'd say, an eating disorder, but it still got pretty bad. That pretty much encapsulates just how bad I struggled with my skin in Japan. So for some background, ever since puberty started and like ever since I became aware that my body occupied physical space, if that makes sense, like I've always had the occasional pimple or whatever. So naturally I came to the conclusion that, oh, I must have oily acne prone skin. Therefore, I'm going to buy products that are catered toward oily acne prone skin. Little did I know, little did I realize that what I actually have fundamentally is sensitive skin. It's from having sensitive skin that all my other problems stemmed, and it's because I misdiagnosed my own skin that I kind of went about life struggling more than I had to when it came to my skincare. A couple weeks ago I mentioned just finishing struggling with a case of adult eczema. This isn't the first time eczema came about in my life. I had it as a child. I had a very mild case of it on my neck in Japan actually, and it took a while to fade, but it was all right in the end. This recent eczema flare-up has been the most memorable and I'd say the most hurtful when it comes to my mental health. I was hardly drawing in order to distract myself from like the physical discomfort, pain, and itch of the eczema. I was playing like a bunch of Overwatch. I was occupying myself with 1,000-piece puzzles while listening to podcasts. Like I was doing whatever I could to like not look at my skin, not look at my face, not look at my arms, and see and dwell on how bad it was. So imagine that mental toll, but with acne. Some of you watching right now might not even have to imagine that pain, and I really sympathize with you because I know it's really hard. I don't have many photos of this era of my life because obviously I was very insecure. I thought I was very ugly, and I thought I was not worth taking photos of. And if I was in any photos, I mean, let's be real, I wasn't looking at me, I was looking at my acne. This is the one photo I have of that era, and I think it pretty much epitomizes all of the insecurity at that time. I'm slouching, my posture isn't good, I'm wearing this whatever shirt and whatever bra that clearly wasn't suiting my body, and I was doing that thing that people with acne have where like they'll look at the camera because they're reluctantly taking the photo. The tactic here is like my whole face looks bad, but I'll try my best to naturally conceal the part of my face that is the absolute worst. To summarize this photo, I didn't want to take it, but I was at that place to witness a really cool cultural activity, so I wanted to be there. The people who got me there were really kind, and they wanted to help me have something to remember this moment by. I'd say I got my first pimple ever when I was in 6th grade, so like 11 years old. This was like 2004. This was just when the Proactive infomercials were emerging and they got super popular. They knew exactly who they were targeting, aka me, and I used Proactive. I used a bunch of other like 3-step anti-acne systems throughout the year. I used lots of things that frankly I should not have used on my skin because they ultimately just made things worse. I used the alcohol-based toners, Thayer's Witch Hazel, Oxy pads. Oh my god, Oxy pads. Do you guys remember Oxy pads? Are those still a thing? But like, yeah, the Oxy pads with like a bunch of salicylic acid on them, and like they would sting because my face was sensitive, not oily acne prone. Like that was a symptom of the sensitivity. Eventually in uni, I was prescribed salicylic acid in the AM and Epiduo gel in the PM. If you know, you know. I was told these prescriptions would make me more sensitive to UV light, so they also told me like, please use sunscreen. Honestly, the combo of the AM PM prescriptions helped a lot. And there was a moment in time in college where I was actually comfortable being in photos. But after a while, that wasn't enough. After uni, my skin became unresponsive to that current regimen, and my self-esteem took another hit. I spent a lot of time indoors. This was also when I was like tutoring and I didn't get into jet, and I was like just not in the greatest mood. And now might be a good time to clarify what I mean by bad acne. I know that I didn't have the worst acne that nature has to offer. It never got to the point where I had to use Accutane. But this video isn't about how objectively bad my acne was. What matters is that it severely affected my subjective experience of my life and my world. And that affected like the risks and opportunities I would take in life. And I think because of my skin, there were a lot of things I missed out on because I was too afraid to be seen in public. So when the time came to go to Japan, I was thinking about my skin. I was thinking about the medications that I would have to continue to use in Japan in order to look reasonable in my terms. My perception of Japan in 2016 was very much that Japanese women have beautiful skin. I mean, even Japanese men have beautiful skin too, because that's all the media that I saw. And I mean, of course, like Japanese people are human too. I mean, there are women who have pretty bad acne, but it is much more uncommon. I would say the overwhelming majority of Japanese women do have pretty good skin. That was another reason I was pretty hesitant of joining the JET program, was because of my skin. I started going to a Japanese dermatologist in order to get Epiduo in Japan. He also prescribed me these like monthly rations of powdered vitamins that I would have to take with every meal, and it just kind of got not only annoying, but it also became questionable as to whether this was even helping. I remember at some point he actually recommended that I go to a gynecologist to see if I need a solution that would tackle the hormonal side of this issue, because most of my acne was like right here, which is like a telltale sign of like hormonal related acne. In the previous video, I mentioned that JET was my first time living alone, and it was my first time making like real full-time job money, and that meant that I had full control of how to use that money. Lo and behold, everyone is so surprised. I know I used that money on skincare. This was the peak of me getting lost in K-beauty and J-beauty, and I very much mean lost, because things just got worse and worse because I was uninformed and I was misinformed about how to use all of these ingredients and all of these products. I don't have proper records, but honestly, I would not be surprised if I used over $1,000 US on skincare, which most didn't work. To illustrate how irresponsible I was using those sheet masks twice a day. In the AM, I'd have like a 10-step skincare routine because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And that routine included a sheet mask. And then I would do the same thing in the PM. It was just so much, so much. Like this was 3 years, the first 3 years of the JET program of me doing this in my private life, and then my private life failures in skincare being shown like in the public when I was at school, and like trying to desperately cover things with BB cream, which also didn't help because it was just another thing added to my skin. This was before COVID too, so like, yes, Japan has a mask culture already, but if you go from never wearing a mask to suddenly wearing a mask, like people will question, be like, are you okay? There was a day that I tried to cover up myself, and then like people were just like kind of worried about me. So I was like, okay, I just have to deal with looking this ugly. My skin was very much like red, bumpy. I had like 5 to 10 like active pustules on my face. It physically hurt to be in my skin. So my algorithms at the time very much reflected my unhealthy obsession with skincare, but there were 2 reliable sources that eventually helped me in my breakthrough and eventual recovery. The first source of skincare info that helped me in my breakthrough was Leah Yu. Back then she was still a YouTuber, but now she's like the founder and CEO of her own skincare line, Crave Beauty, which I do recommend if it's accessible to you. Her skincare philosophy of press, reset, less but better very much helped me come to terms with the fact that this 10-step Korean skincare routine just wasn't it. Why not just go back to 3 steps, go back to cleanser, moisturize, sunscreen, that's it. The second source of skincare information that helped me in my breakthrough is Dr. Shireen Idris. She has a get ready with me video, I think with Wired. I'll find it, but that video very much helped me realize that my skin isn't oily acne prone. It was fundamentally sensitive skin, and that the oiliness and the acne proneness of my skin was a symptom of me not taking care of the fact that my skin was sensitive. After that, I pretty much threw away all of the products that were geared toward acne and oiliness and just focus on investing in really good formulas that help sensitive skin. But throughout all of this, the most important step was sunscreen. Sunscreen in high school, sunscreen after I had that epiduo stuff. I had to take antibiotics at some point for the acne, more sunscreen for that. When you're in Japan, you know the reason why all the women are so pretty? It's because they wear sunscreen. Sunscreen all the time, every time. Like, sunscreen is non-negotiable. This is 2019 in Sapporo, and it's my first selfie ever. 27 years old, your girl took her first selfie and she wanted to take it. Did I cringe after I took it? Yes. Do I have magically smooth skin? Absolutely not. But I was comfortable enough to take it, and that is a huge step, like mentally. My God, my hair was greasy. So 5 years into Jet, I finally got my holy grail routine. In the AM, I would rinse in the morning. I'd put vitamin C serum, moisturizer, sunscreen. That's it. Not even BB cream. I mean, by then it was COVID time. We were wearing masks all the time. I don't need to waste product on something that people will only see half of, so whatever. In the PM, Bioderma micellar water, the sensitive type, to get sunscreen and like any grime off of my face. Then I used CeraVe cleanser on active nights. So that was 3 times a week. I would alternate between AHA or glycolic acid, some weaker form of retinol, and AHA again. So there would be rest days in between. And then moisturize. An important caveat I learned from Dr. Idris was that your skincare needs to fit the climate that you're in. These were the holy grail routines for me in Japan. And Japan, if you don't already know, is basically humid all the time. Like, sure, in the winter it's much more dry, especially when you're like running a heater all the time. But for the most part, like especially if you compare it to like someplace like Southern California, it's pretty humid. Here in New Zealand, sure, I have a few pimples every now and then, but my main focus is eczema. I just scratched my neck because I have eczema. So like my skincare has changed to be more like oatmeal based. Obviously, I'm not a dermatologist or any sort of skincare expert. My advice is anecdotal at best. If I can go back in time and talk to my 24-year-old self, here's what I tell her. 1, your skin is fundamentally sensitive. It is not fundamentally oily and acne prone. There's a difference. 2, just don't bother with oil cleansing. I forgot to mention the oil cleansing, the 3 years of oil cleansing attempts that just made things worse. Again, lots of things just made things worse. Do not oil cleanse at all. Don't bother. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your time on the oil cleansers. 3, you don't need sheet masks. Do not use them twice a day. 4, the snail mucin serums and stuff, they don't work. Don't bother. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your time. 5? It's very possible that the reason my skin cleared up when it did is honestly just because I got older. I mean, I was 30 by the time I finished Jet. Maybe when you hit 30, things just calm down for a while. I haven't had a child yet. I heard that like hormones change before, during, and after childbirth, so things can get really bad again. And I don't know, but as far as I know, the first hurdle of getting through acne in my 20s just cleared up as I got closer to 30. 6, don't stop wearing sunscreen. But my God, my hair was greasy.